But we are really delighted tonight to bring JVC, who hasn't been here for about 2 years. 2 years, Alicia. And but when Alicia called me up, I was just trying to find the right slot, and finally she's here. And to give you the latest on their really cool stuff. And by the way, at the break, run upstairs and take a look at all the stuff that they got up on the table there, because there's some really good stuff. But anyway, to talk a little bit about what JVC's got to offer, please welcome Alicia Reed from JVC.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. I wanted to thank you for having me here. As it was mentioned, it's been a while since we came, but I know in the past, partly why it was a nice compliment to your group is some of the cameras from JVC 4 or 5 years ago, the GY-HM650, the 790, they were actually designed by Apple. And we were some of the first professional and broadcast cameras to have .mov as a way to record in the camera in addition to XD-Cam EX. So it's a neat fit, and I wanted to come today again as well because we have some really unique features to our new cameras, and I thought it would be interesting. It introduces some new workflows as well. So at NAB we announced. Oh, sure. This one? Is this okay?
You can either use either one.
Okay. Let's
Well,
see.
that one too, and there's two on either side.
Then I can move my head around. So at NAB, we announced the GY-HM650 2.0. The 600 and 650 are a couple of cameras that we announced and produced last year. But the 2.0 is a new version of both, and that's what I wanted to share with you because they have some real revolutionary features, including live streaming, wireless transmission. Both cameras have some nice features. If you don't need the wireless type features I'm going to talk about, the 600 is the more basic unit. And what's unique about it is we have one of the most powerful lenses. It's a 23 by Fuji. And it's built in, but I tell people it's such a good lens, you're not embarrassed that it's attached. A lot of our other cameras are, you could change the lenses, but this one is so versatile. You can shoot a 2-shot from about 2 feet away. You can put your hand right in front of the monitor, and look at that. I'm literally inches. So it's also good for product shots and things. I don't know if you can see on this small monitor here. And obviously the 23 by gives you really nice zoom capabilities. So if you are shooting surfing or something in the distance, sports, it's really convenient for. Also, it has the newest Cmos sensors. It has 3 1/3 inch Cmos sensors. And so it can give you really low light capability in this small size. It's rated at f11 at 2000 lux. And in addition to our standard formats of XD-Cam EX and .mov, these cameras add AVC HD on both of them. And on the 650, it adds H.264 and a new style called MXF, which I'll talk about in a moment. Both of them also use the SD cards. And people say even though it's a handheld camera, it's very well balanced. And there are a lot of third-party interesting shoulder mount devices that if you prefer a shoulder mount feel, there was a nice one at NAB called Camera Ribbon that literally looked kind of like an S-shaped wire, and it was really comfortable and easy to use. Both of them have the features I just mentioned, but the 650 adds dual encoder. A few years ago, JVC announced a Falcon Bridge chip that can work really quickly. And this allows you to record on one card HD and on another card either SD or something for the web. So many people are doing multiple screens now. This can be a time saver. Also, it adds a USB host for Wi-Fi or 4G. And I'll talk about that in a moment. It allows you to do a variety of things. You can FTP recorded files, and now you can live stream files. It also has a really cool web server. The camera itself has an IP address, so you can see it remotely from even another town, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. And it has what I call a virtual shader. You can actually shade it from another location. You don't have to be standing over the camera. And it has those new formats, which I'll talk about too. The 2.0 gives you the live transmission. It will do live transmission or FTP in the background while you're still shooting, and it has that cool virtual shading. So here's an example. We didn't have a fancy projector to show you a live shot big, but this kind of shows how if you're standing in a second floor of a building, see the red arrow pointing to a car in the parking lot? That's how far away you can be, and that's your wide shot, and it can zoom in to be able to see the car like that. And you can see on the lower right, if you were using like a DSLR, your lens would be that big. Whereas this small camera, the way we've engineered it, you get that power in the smaller size. And it has not only the zoom and focus, but also an iris ring. So some people say it's a real lens. It also has the 3 Cmos sensors that I mentioned, which gives you the really good sensitivity. It's arguably going to give you even maybe nicer performance than a single Bayer sensor. And here are the different formats. You can see on the different styles, you have such a selection. These days you may have multiple clients with multiple editing suites. This gives you the versatility of shooting in whatever format they need. And again, low-cost media. You don't have to buy a proprietary media. And we've also enhanced the way you can control things. See on the upper right, it actually looks like a little audio equalizer. And then here, it's almost like a post-production tool built into the camera. These are actually what you see in the camera LCD screen when you're adjusting things. And they have so many ins and outs. It has both HDMI and HDSDI out, which can be used simultaneously. So if you want to go 422 out onto an Azuki Pro and also view on a larger monitor, you can do that at the same time, which is really nice. And then it's not made for Genlock or multi-camera shooting per se, but you can actually do a procedure where you do a free run timecode match, and that way you can do multiple camera shooting and have all your timecode match. So it's kind of a poor man's way to get around the Genlock. And the 650, here it's illustrating the two sensors, the encoders that enable you to go HD on one card and SD on the other. You get identical time code, identical image. It just allows you to give one to your television editor and one to your webmaster. Or maybe you're doing that yourself. It also gives you the capability of recording low-res proxy files. That enables you to actually view footage on like an iPad, which can be convenient in your workflow. Or if you're FTPing, it'll go faster, and I'll talk about that. This is kind of an educational thing for you. If you haven't heard, there's a new format coming out. It's the ending MXF. And this is something CNN requested, and JVC has been working along with other members to make this new format. Basically what it does is on the left, you can see the XDCAM-EX folder structure has multiple pieces. It's not just one thing. Whereas the MXF is kind of like MOV, where it's all rolled into one. But instead of just having video and audio like MOV, it adds metadata. Nowadays, since we're going non-tape, it's so easy for broadcasters and others like yourselves to actually sort things and search for things. And so here, you can see on the bottom, JVC is working with Sony, Avid, Adobe, Harmonic, and Turner, which is CNN, to create this formal format. There's the group of us called Advanced Media Workflow Association, and it's an AS10 name, which will be a standard. That's a new standard. So it's kind of cool. I wanted to mention it to you that that's going to be available. And right away, the broadcasters are going to use it. You can see they'll use it for search, play out, archive. But that's something you might find useful too. You literally, it's kind of like remember the old days you were logging tape and you'd say, wide shot, good shot. This is what you can encode and it'll be actually digitally embedded with your video. And then I mentioned it has an IP address. You can actually type the IP address into, let's say an example is you're a producer and you send your shooter out but you can't go. and you want to kind of micromanage, it's a new person, and so you say, call them on the phone, I'm going to check your shot now, are you all set up? And they say, yeah. You can actually be in your office, type in the IP address of the camera and like Explorer, and it will show you their live image. So I've had some reality TV program producers say they want to do just that. They're going to check on their shooters in the field. Maybe you have a client. You can say, hey, Mr. Client, check out this shot. Do you approve it? That could be really handy. Or if you're in a crowded area, maybe it's a newsworthy event and all the camera people are all struggling to stand around because it's so crowded. You could set up your camera. You could sit back and relax in a chair in the back of the room with an iPad, and you can actually see the camera, and not only can you see it, you can control it. You can start and stop it, you can zoom in and out, and you can even adjust it. So that's really amazing. You can see on the upper right is basically the home page of the camera. That's what pops up when you type in the IP address. In the middle is your quote-unquote live shot. It's not something that's broadcast quality, but it's something you can view easily. And on the bottom, it even shows your metadata. So this is where if you're using that new metadata system, you can actually see, you can either type it in yourself or someone can push it remotely using this wireless system. So it's kind of futuristic, isn't that neat? Just a little bit. It's not, again, for broadcast or anything, but if you want to get the feel for the shot, and I'll demonstrate it in a moment. Also, you can use, that can be done with wireless. Also, you can use 4G LTE. And this is used for the next thing you can do, which is FTPing footage or doing live streaming. And basically how it works is you can use your 4G or wireless, and if you have a weak signal, you can actually record something. And then let's say you're in a hurry to get it on the air. Maybe you're doing a webcast that's important. You can call your office and say, ooh, I've got a really good sound bite. I want you to put it on our webcast for a teaser. And they can say, okay, and you can select either an entire clip that you shot, or our 2.0 version actually allows you to trim the clip to your favorite part. And you can FTP it, which basically means send it wirelessly or via 4G. And even if your signal's bad, it'll end up on the other side complete. And here's an example. You'd just go in and tell it where you want it to go. At your location, you'd have an FTP server of some kind. A lot of companies already have them. If you don't, you can buy a little pocket one for a couple $100s. And then you just pre-program that in your camera. Say I want to send it there, and with the 2.0 version, it can be sending it in the background while you're still shooting. So you don't have to stop any important coverage that you're doing. And here's an example. You can actually see how fast your signal is by doing this Speedtest Net. And as an example, typically you'll see speeds ranging from 5 to 14 megabits per second typically. And if you're just doing something for the web, a 3-minute clip could take 15 seconds to a minute. So for news people, they love this. They're not live, but it's almost. They're so quick, they don't have to drive back to the station. And also if you're doing something HD 35 megabits, the 3-minute clip still only could take 7 to 26 minutes, which is still faster than having to drive back to the office. So if you're a busy camera person and you have another shoot, you can say, hey, I just FTP'd you the shots that you need. I'm going to go to the next place now. So it can really speed up your workflow. It's a very cool modern tool. And then finally, why are we doing this? Because in the old days, you had to maybe put your media in a computer, maybe send it that way, or maybe even use a truck, which is quite expensive. Or now they have those backpacks with multiple antennas, like the different backpack options. This is the third tool in your toolbox. And in the old days, if you used those other methods, you'd have to go away from the breaking news or from your action that you were doing. And you might not have time for that. This is so much nicer because you can literally continue shooting while you're FTPing your footage back. So it's a cool time saver. And the live streaming is even more amazing. You can, with the new 2.0, do the live streaming. You can still be recording onto a memory card, so you still have it on the media, just like in the old days. And how it works is, if you're a broadcaster, or you're maybe just doing some stringer work for a TV station, you can just send it to them, and they'll have a decoder, which they'll use to put it on the air. Also, if you want to do things for the web, there's web-based programs you can use, and that'll actually allow you to stream live to the web. And I'm going to demonstrate that now with some free software. The cameras themselves are in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, so it's really quite remarkable. I bet when I was talking, you thought these were going to be much more expensive. So even if you're not a news person, I bet you can imagine this could really speed up your workflow, recording 2 different formats to cards, or being able to send things. And so I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm actually going to close my little PowerPoint, and I think you'll be able to see this. Watch. I'm going to go to the internet, and I'm going to type in here, even though I'm not technically connecting to the internet with like the regular wireless service, this is the IP address of my camera. And so I'm going to select that. It's going to ask me for my password, and I have my little password in there. Ta-da! This is the actual website or homepage of the camera. And check it out. I'm going to click this box, View Remote. There it is. See that, you guys? So this is what I was talking about. If you're a producer and your shooter's in San Diego, you can say, hey, I want to see what you're shooting, and you can actually look. Or like me, let's say this camera I can't touch. Maybe I put it in the rafters, or maybe it's in a weird location. It allows me to see this live view, and then check it out. See this? Can you see my little arrow? This is going to zoom in and out. So I didn't touch the camera. Did you see that? Isn't that amazing? So if you need to set up your shot, it'll zoom out for you. And you can see the red button. I can start and stop. I can also have preset locations. That's what the A, B, and C is for. And then I also told you about how you can adjust things. This is our camera controls. Isn't this cool? So I could either be touching the camera and adjusting these things, or again, let's say I put the camera in the rafters and I can't touch it, or maybe I'm the micromanaging producer in New York or something. I could actually be fiddling with all this stuff, and check it out, there's even this paint button. So I don't know, can you see the monitor? When I adjust the paint, can you see it changing? So that's an illustration of how I'm not touching the camera. I could literally be in another building or in another location and be controlling the camera. So it's so wonderful and futuristic. I have this camera right here. We're looking at it in the live view. I don't think it matters if we're looking at it through this, but if you look at this monitor, I'm trying to figure out if you'll be able to see it. Because I'm going to turn on, I just press a button, and I'm going live. Is it showing a little live thing on the screen? So, okay, so the little live is on. You see the little white triangle? That shows that I have connectivity. And then this live button shows I'm streaming live. So I'm actually streaming to my camera. Yeah, so anyways, it's really cool because I could be recording to a card. I'm also live streaming now using the little back of my camera. Right in the back is where the USB port is. It's hiding in this little place. Can you see the little blue glow? It's very small. So that's actually the web dongle, the wireless dongle. And if I wanted to connect the 4G connector, like you saw in the picture, I'd put it right here as well. And we did that so as they change the technology and make new web dongles and 4G dongles, you don't have to buy a whole new camera. So it's pretty neat. I'm just using a little teeny wireless dongle. There it is. So I'm using the VLC media player. So you can see there is a little lag. See that? But that's the live one. And then here's the media player. So that's an example, and I'm doing it at a lower rate. Remember on my screen, you could choose if you have a really strong signal, you can actually do a high HD, and so like that's why news broadcasters will use this. When in instances where they have a really concrete signal, it'll look pretty much just like their regular HD footage. I have it on kind of an SD version right now, just because I didn't know how good the signal would be. And you can also, if you have a weak signal, choose the 8.8 megabit per second, which would be good for web streaming. So yeah, that's the VLC media player. That's free. I actually just downloaded it. I didn't pay a darn thing. And this would allow you to go out onto your website if you wanted to do a live stream. Yay, well, I'm glad everyone's excited.